Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 7. So we are finally into the month of October, which of course it means that we are only a week away roughly, from The Flash returning to our screens with Season 7, or, it's 7th season. Of course, that is me dreaming that we were in the correct timeline and not the COVID timeline, so I'm sorry for that piece of verbalized pain that I might have just delivered. Now, in reality, the show is only just about to head into filming for Season 7. They're months behind, rather than us actually, getting the first episode on screen and letting our eyeballs see it. Now, for those that didn't know, there was actually a slight delay to the start of filming. It actually would have started yesterday, I think, from when this video goes up, but due to some issues with COVID testing and just some backlog, they had to delay the filming a bit more. But it seems it will only be delayed from like a few days of filming to about a week, roughly. That's what it looks like. It doesn't appear it's as dramatic as it was reported by some trades, making it sound like, oh my god, they're closed down for 2 months or something. So pretty much what the issue is that there's only one lab doing the tests in the whole Vancouver area where they film. Actually, in all of British Columbia, actually, the province it's in, and schools and local businesses get the preference, so they're jumping ahead of the productions, and then there's just been this backlog. Why it wasn't prepared, or they weren't prepared for this much, I don't know. That's a question for them, I guess, but that's the reason behind it. But it'll just take them, a couple of days or a few days to maybe like a week to, catch up. So along with The Flash, pretty much all the shows there are either getting delayed a bit in regards to when they're starting, or they're just halting production until all that's caught up on. But actually leading into some news as to, what to expect with Season 7 of The Flash, we actually have some information about the return of a character that we did expect to see again last season sometime after an appearance earlier in the season, especially expecting to see them post-Crisis. But for some reason, whatever that may be, that return just didn't happen in Season 6. Now, this return could lead into an interesting storyline, potentially, that does line up with what has already been set up for Season 7 with one or more characters. Now, this returning character is that of Jay Garrick, who, of course, we saw before Crisis, that being on Earth 3, but we didn't see him after. But it was confirmed by the showrunner, that being Eric Wallace, to him to be a resident of Earth Prime, along with Joan Williams, who is like Nora Allen's doppelganger. I'll actually read the quote from Eric Wallace right now, so you know exactly what he said. There are things that have not changed but are a little different. For example, like a Jay Garrick who used to be on another Earth. Jay Garrick's now on our Earth now. Jay and Joan are alive. So at some point, we, hopefully, will run back into them because they're a part of our world. You never know what kind of familiar face you might run into. So yeah, this was confirmed by Eric Wallace straight after Crisis aired, just leading into like the back half of last season, The Flash, just after Crisis. But, we all expected from him saying that they were going to show up in that back half, but it never happened. But, well, things are about to change. Now, John Wesley Shipp, who of course plays Jay Garrick, as well as, playing both the Earth 90 Flash as well as Henry Allen, was talking to Den of Geek, that was the website, about the 30th anniversary of the 90s Flash TV show, which of course he starred in as Barry Allen. And this is what he had to say specifically on that version of the character, and whether there is anything more to come from that side of things. I feel in a good place with Barry. The character who interests me now is Jay. Having had this long, winding road with this franchise, I'm an actor who is particularly placed at the moment to play Jay Garrick. Now, this isn't too surprising of an answer to come from John here, as he seemed, pretty content with how that version of the character, like the Earth 90 or the 90s version of the Flash, how that version of the character got an ending to his story. That 90s Flash show was never actually cancelled due to ratings or anything like that. Like, that wasn't the reason it ended. There was just issues with the network it was on at the time. Politics is probably the best word to use to describe everything that happened there. The whole story in regards to how the show came to be and what certain people thought it was gonna be before it aired and all of that is actually pretty interesting. But anyway, on the topic of Jay Garrick, as John does bring that up there towards the end of that initial quote, he did go on to say this specifically about Jay Garrick. I know Jay Garrick is coming back to the CW show, but they were supposed to be at a further point in the story. They didn't get to play out the end of Season 6 because of COVID, as we know, so they've got to tie up some things. Eric Wallace has said that he does want to talk to me about some ideas about Jay Garrick going forward. It's not clear how Jay would have survived the destruction of Earth 3, but whatever the case, it seems like he'll now be in a position to get together with Team Flash without having to run between dimensions. We know that Jane Williams and Jay are on Earth Prime. We'll see what they come up with. My experience with this group is that they've given you every reason to have faith that whatever they come up with is going to be interesting and you're going to want to play it. So what John says there is he doesn't say, okay, I'm back in season 7, episode 5. He doesn't say that. He just says he's been told that he's got a future as Jay Garrick on the show and he's set to come back. Now, you'd expect him in season 7. I think that's the thing that's definitely going to happen is in season 7. The big thing is, and it comes back to some stuff that we talked about earlier, and even he references it there in his quote, COVID. The whole quarantine thing is a big thing until America and I guess Canada are sort of on terms. Like there's going to be that quarantine, at least specifically when you go into Canada, and more specifically in regards to this, Vancouver. They're not going to have him come over and stay in a hotel for 2 weeks to film 1 week of television. And even then he wouldn't be filming. He filmed maybe half the week of that television schedule. So they're not going to make him come up for 2 weeks, pay for everything, and then have him film for 4 days. They'd either want him not having to quarantine, or if they're going to have him quarantine, it's going to be in multiple episodes. So if COVID, quarantine is still a thing, I think we could see him being in a few episodes, which I think for most people, viewers and stuff, would be pretty stoked with, and I think would be happy with that. But in regards to what plans they could have with the character, one thing I would love to see is, and this lines up with some other stuff that's been on the show, and a lot of people have been asking, hey, could they do this on the show, especially with how season 7's lining up, and that's Flash War. Now, it would be different from the comics. In the comics, it's more like a storyline involving the future, Iris being accused of killing Eobard, Reverse Flash, like a future version of the Rogues called the Renegades, and then it involves some stuff with the Speed Force, Wally West, and then eventually at the end of it, it's a disruption in the Speed Force is created. That's not even me diving 10% into it. That's just me giving some plot points of it, and involves Wally versus Barry, hence Flash War. It would be an interesting thing if they adapted it word for word into the show, but it'd be very, very unlikely. So you could get a version of that on the show. Now, how could it be translated and interpreted on the show? Now, of course, we have Godspeed at the beginning of this season. We know he's the first half threat/antagonist. Now, he's not a villain in the comics. He's not a flat-out villain, so he's more this threat, antagonist, anti-hero, than sort of a member of Team Flash, or a part-time member, if you want to call it. And they could do that in the show and lead down that road. I don't know how likely it is. The way that they word everything makes you think that they're going to just make Godspeed a villain, but you never know. They could be comic accurate in regards to how he ends up. And of course, the big question is that we have the Reverse Flash mystery from last season. Where did he go? Where is he going to come back? They said that that's going to be addressed in some way, shape, or form, so we could see something like that go down. And of course, we do have this new Speed Force being created, and there could be elements or consequences from, or side effects is maybe a good word to use as well. Consequences, side effects, whatever you want to use, that come from it, whether it is from Barry himself or maybe other good speedsters that were connected to the old Speed Force. So you could bring in Wally, could bring in Jay, could bring in maybe even a guest speedster that we haven't met on the show, but it was connected to the Speed Force. So you could get interesting things like that, and it creates some sort of interpretation of the Flash War. And even if you just want to use the title and use some little element from the comic story and bring it into the show, it would work, especially if you did bring in Godspeed and even a Reverse Flash aspect as well, and maybe even some other evil speedsters if they want to do that. We don't even know officially what happened to Zoom, because things changed there. So maybe Zoom could show up again, who knows? It is important to know that Eric Wallace has said that this season is going to tap deeper into speedster mythology, which hasn't really been a focus for many seasons, if at all. I don't think they've really dived super deep into speedster mythology. You could argue maybe the deepest they dived into it was Savitar, because they wanted to make it this oh, he's the first speedster and everything. Even though that sidetracked, if they actually went deeper into that, it could have been a bit more interesting. But that was probably maybe the deepest they've gone into the speedster mythology. And I guess you could argue the whole lineage thing with Nora West Allen was somewhat an interesting way to do it, but still not that successful. So it would be interesting if they did do a whole speedster focused thing with multiple speedsters being there. It could get jam-packed, but the thing is that crazy times with COVID would make that they need to, if they have to do quarantine, actors are probably going to have to be in multiple episodes to make it worth the time of bringing that actor back. So if they're going to do that, we could actually end up with cool mini arcs, or just an arc in general revolving around an interpretation of this Flash War story, which I know that people would like to see. As I said, I don't think we're going to get anything similar to what they even did in the comics, but it would be cool if even Wally came back for this and they did some sort of interesting like nod to what happened in that storyline, but worked it into the show and what they want to do there, and just what makes sense as well. So I'd like to see it, especially because there is certain things already in the show that sort of set it up, and the fact that, you know, Jay Garrick will be coming back to the show is also a very cool fact, or piece of information. But it's a wait and see. They haven't even started filming the season yet, so it's a wait and see. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on the video to show your support. Let me know in the comments section down below your various opinions about this. Are you excited to have Jay Garrick back? Would you like to have like a Flash War take, or a take on Flash War in the, you know, from the comics onto the show? How would you do it differently? Let me know all your opinions down there. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.